I got my tea. Let's look at the tea from here. So, for those who are not aware, we had an article drop last night, and it's addressing game design. It's done by the director of game design, Bill Stark, and it's talking about the complex. It looks to be talking about complexity, mental load, and universes. I have only skimmed this. I've I have seen a lot of feedback, which isn't looking the greatest. Some players have outright said they felt insulted by it, but I'm gonna go through and read it. And of course, being the meme guy that I am, I have already put up a little thing that was on the UVS homepage because we're currently in the middle of working. I'm currently in the middle of working on our new series that we're going to be doing. But just a reminder, this is on the front page of UVS. When you go to the world, you get simple interactions, complex gameplay, complex interactions. That is what this game was designed around. So just bear that in mind as we go through the article, if that makes sense. So, designing UVS complexity, mental load, and universes. Our focus at UVS Games over the past 2 years has been growing universes. We have brought new products to markets, awesome new worlds to visit, re-examined how we can make universes the best it can be. Today I'm starting a new article series that focuses on gameplay, design, tackles, challenges of helping universes grow. Today we're looking at the concept of mental load and how it impacts players playing games. This is really good. Honestly, this is a great idea for an article because it's something that I've touched on through UK Versus, which was talking about mental load of players coming into the game with a mentality of competitiveness, and players starting the game and players traveling to events feeling they had to get wins. And part of my disagreement with the segregated rounds cut into draft that was proposed for season 1 was that it imposed a mental tax on players who were going to be having this self-deprecating thing of I need to win, I need to win, I need to win, I need to win. Because if they don't win those first 2 rounds, they ain't getting to play the game anymore and they're out. That is a huge impact mentally. It creates this game like with SP and the challenger, the championship points. It created this cycle of I need to win every event I enter. I need to get these points. That's how I get to Worlds. I need to qualify for these events. And seeing SP go is a great thing for that. But especially when I was talking to younger players as well, who were looking at I need to make every event count because I don't have that many events. So, talking about mental load is great for the mental and emotional health of players. I don't think that's where this article is going to go, personally, from what I've heard. But if Bill Stark wanted to talk about the mental tax that competitive play has on players and how important casual play is, that would actually be a very interesting topic to go on. Memory and card design and game design. Human beings have 2 types of memory. Wrong. Just immediate like that. That is an outdated premise. Short-term memory used for processing information in the present quickly, and long-term memory used to recall important information previously retained from short-term memory. That is just incorrect. We have central memory, which is memories that regarding senses, including smells and other things like that. We have textile memory, we have episodic memory, we have working memory, we have muscle memory, we have hypervigilant. We have hypervigilantal memory that is ingrained into instincts. So things like not immediately checking before crossing a road is a muscle memory and a hyper instinctual memory, because especially if you've been hurt before, you're more hyper aware of your surroundings to go for that. So just put it into short-term and long-term memory is an oversimplification. I mean, here we have, look, Alzheimer's organization, which is talking about how complex memory is. Working memory, use this to store information for short periods, so it can be interchanged with short-term memory. You need to remember a number when you do a sum in your head. If you have problems with your working memory, let's go on. Episodic memory is more what we have as gamers. It's more in line with muscle memory. So episodic memory is recalling past events, recent or distant, using episodic memory to remember personal experience, such as what you had for lunch or family gatherings. These often include recalling emotions or feelings. It is about what you've experienced in the past repeatedly coming up. It could also be cut down with semantic memory. Use it to remember the meanings of words, remember facts. You can also use this to remember familiar faces and objects. Knowledge is not directly tied to any personal experience. You may know just a plate is for holding food, or that a phone is. Yeah, so I would not account me knowing to put food on a plate to my long-term memory. That is not something I've committed to remembering. That is something that I've remembered through doing and seeing it done. Very similar to how when we play this game, we remember to we know that we have to ready our foundations, we know we have to draw, we know we have to do this. It is thematic and episodic memory. But remembering interactions between cards comes down here. We commit it to long-term memory, but we don't actively try to recall that memory. If that making sense, that when we're playing a game, if I play, let's have a look, what cards have we got here? If I play Seasoned Brawler, I don't go, okay, my opponent's going to put, if my opponent blocks, I don't try to actively recall what this card does. I see it, and it triggers a memory through somatic or episodic memory that this is a card that triggers when my opponent blocks with an attack, I get to draw a card. And I need to recall that from when my opponent plays a card. It is a triggered memory. Not something that is in my long-term memory that I try to recall when playing the game, because that just sounds like a lot of processing power. If that makes sense. The average human can hold 5 to 7 things in their short-term memory, which at any point they either commit to long-term memory storage or quick recall for quick recall in the future. That's not long-term memory. Isn't just quick recall. You again, that's somatic and episodic. Or forget an item to make room for the next thing needed for short-term memory. Yeah. Which means for games there is the average player can hold 5 to 7 pieces of new information, which they either need to permanently commit, or for long memory, or disregard. Focus on memorizing as well. Yeah, but your short-term memory lasts 30 seconds to a minute. So, turn a single form on average doesn't last that much longer, and there are not that many interactions within a form that you need to remember. This is why we use things like dice and apps and stuff like that to remember, health totals to remember, and we do commit enhances and stuff to memory so we can recall what's happened. If this is the case that they're saying that we can't remember, they should allow note taking. We see it in chess a lot where people are noting every single move. If they're saying that we need to remember that, we should be allowed to note everything that's happened. I think during HLC Vegas, we did have someone on the stream table who was kind of noting everything that was going on. But let's look at two real world examples: chess and checkers. Checkers is a great game to teach quickly because there isn't much you need to know. There are two colored pieces. There's one type of each on the board. Game pieces can move forward one space. Game pieces hop over the opposing pieces to take them. You miss diagonally there, but sure. The player who captures all the opposing pieces wins. But that's not everything you need to take into account with checkers. You need to anticipate what your opponent will do in response. You need to see how you're going to be leaving yourself open. Yes, it's not as complicated as chess, but there's still many factors you need to take into account when playing checkers. That's 5 pieces of data a player can handily store. Well, no, because once you know what color you are, you don't need to commit that to memory. You should. That's not a short-term memory issue. That's a long-term memory. Something that's already committed. There's one type of piece. Again, you don't need that as short-term memory, so that can go. Game pieces move forward. Again, that's semantic. That's episodic and semantic memory. This is not things you need to have in mind for short-term memory. And when learning, you need to commit them to long. If you're having to remind yourself every 30 seconds that you are playing the white pieces or that you need to move forward, then that's not great in terms of your own personal memory. And personally, the win condition, these are things that, because they're not, even here they're not talking about when learning the game checkers you need to remember all these things. They're just talking about in a game of checkers. Oh yeah, to teach a game quickly. There we go. Because there isn't much you need to know. So I missed that bit on there. But let's look at chess and checkers. That's 5 pieces of data that can be held. There are 2 colors. Leaving open to new pieces of data to be tracked, like the concept of kinging. But yeah, that's down to how you're taught. You don't just immediately dump people with information like that. That is a terrible way to teach someone to play a game. Chess, on the other hand, is a bit more complex. It has more pieces, 16 pieces either side. Yes, 32 pieces total. I mean, there's more like 6 pieces, just what some are repeated, but yeah, sure, 16 technically. Chess does something clever to have more pieces. Instead of 32 unique pieces which you need to memorize, they duplicate pieces, cutting down what you need to remember to 16. 16 is still a lot, but it makes it easier to front 8 pieces. The cuts of your 16 pieces down to 9, but wait, within the 9 pieces there are 3 duplicates: rooks, knights, and bishops. And 8 pawns. Instead of 9 pieces, then you make it down to 6. Yeah. Pawns, kings, queens, rooks, knights, bishops. Why are we going so in depth into chess? Really? Well, 6 unique pieces of chess are more complex than the 1 piece of checkers. The design allows the game to fit 32 pieces total into a human capacity for short-term memory by asking us only to learn 6 new things. Furthermore, the design of the game ensures that early turns are often focused on pawn movement, allowing you to commit the pawn movements to memory, quickly freeing up the space for new data for short-term storage. Yes, chess is far more complex the more you play, but if a player can't get over the initial hurdles of learning the core gameplay loop, they'll never get into deep enough trouble with castling or en passant. Yeah, but the same applies to our game. The first turns are dedicated to foundations, and if you go too aggressive too early, you can get punished. And there are decks that play around that. Bakugo 4, Younger to Go is a great answer. Get around that. But how a player is going to learn about the different types of playstyle. If a player can't get over the initial hurdles of learning the core gameplay, then they're never going to get to the points of deadlock and EX and break, because they're just dying too quickly. So you don't teach them that yet. Measuring mental load in UVS. As game designers, we manage the question of balancing mental load in games every single day. Before we can consider the question of whether the mental load in UVS is in a healthy spot, we must first provide a framework of analyzing how to measure it in the first place. Let's consider a typical game of UVS and how a mental load goes over for the course of a few turns. Let's start off with assumption let's start with some assumptions to make the exercise functional. Each player starts with seven-handed character. Okay, a card counts as one piece of data to track the player. No, that's not right. Each player plays 3 foundations per turn, no more no less. Each player attacks once per turn, no more no less. Okay. Okay, so those are the parameters that have been set up, but I wouldn't count one card as one thing you need to keep track of. Because, like, if that's 7 cards, then you're immediately overloaded, because you're having to remember your short term is all 7 cards. That is not how players play the game. Given the assumption, here's the mental load overview of the first 3 turns between opponents. We'll call Bill and Tammy. Bill draws his opening hands of 7 cards. He has 7 bits of data to consider. Mental load of 7. Yeah, I guess. No. How do? Let's go for the entire thing. Bill plays his first turn, leading on 3 foundations. Still a mental load of 7 to worry about. Tammy starts her turn with a hand of 7, but draws a card. Bill has 3 foundations to consider. Her mental load on the first turn is 11. Tammy plays 3 foundations and passes turn. Bill starts second turn. After drawing, he now has 7 bits of data in his hand, 3 in his card pool, 3 in Tammy's stage, of a mental load of 13. Bill plays 3 foundations and 1 attack. Tammy plays 1 block, meaning Bill ends his turn with a mental max load of 14 bits of data and 12 permanent bits of data. He has to track 6 foundations on his board, 3 foundations on Tammy's, and 3 cards in hand. Tammy starts turn, fills out her hand 7 in hand, 9 on the battlefield, 9 on the on both place stages. Between her and Bill's foundations for the mental total of 16 bits there to track, doubling her initial mental by second turn. Sure, if every bit of that data is relevant to your turn, then yes. But it is not. So, Bill going into his first turn has 7 cards in hand. Does not have to memorize all 7 of those cards. Doesn't have to focus on those cards. Instead, that becomes one piece of data. I have 7 cards in my hand. Then we cut that data down. So Bill plays 3 foundations. This means that we can acquaint that either Bill failed the 4th foundation or had no 0 cost foundation in hand, or was running 2 checks. But that requires that he failed it. So, going from Bill's opening hand of 7, we can acquaint that 3 of them were non-playable during that turn, which means that initial mental load of 7 cuts down to 4. They had 3 attacks or 2 for actions and an attack because he only launched 1 attack, but he also only had 3 foundations. So what you have in your hand we'll change it. So you open your hand and you go, okay, this is what I've committed. Tammy has nothing. I have nothing to take in. So my mental load is 7. Cool. I can immediately dismiss these cards because I cannot play them this turn. My mental load drops down. I then look and go, okay, knowing my deck, I go, I can pass this, and this. I then just have to work out the order in which I'm going to play this, and this. So that mental load is not a 7, it's a 1. I have cards in my hand, and I can play these cards uninterrupted. Then we go over to Tammy's turn. Tammy has an input of 7, and then has Bill's 3 foundations to consider. Now, yes and no. There are not many interactions that go on regarding builds. Let's say Bill is playing Shigaraki 3, which isn't even considered in here for characters. Not even considering the character's abilities in here. Bill has gone first. His character is committed. So even if he's playing Shigaraki 3, he cannot interact with the board. There are not any cards that immediately come to mind that say when your opponent is playing a foundation, give that foundation -1 to the check. There are cards that allow themselves to be removed to stop the build of a foundation, but both players are losing 1 from that. So rather than going, Tammy has a mental load of 11 because she has 8 cards and 3. Tammy has a mental load of 2. My hand, my opponent's stage. The first thing that she should do is then go, does my opponent have anything in their stage that interacts with my board, with what I'm going to build? You look and you go, yes, cool. You commit that to memory. You do not then go, you do not keep that in short term. You just literally keep that as a short. You commit that to the long term memory, to the recall part. You're not committing to long term memory because you're not going to remember this game in like a week, but you're committing it to recall that my opponent has this that can interact. So then you go back to your hand. So you've immediately got rid of those 3. If those 3 do not interact with what you're going to do, they're done. They're gone. Boom. Out ahead. After 15 seconds, you've reset. You go, cool. I get to now build. I have 8 cards in my hand. Tammy only builds 3, so we put her in the same situation as Bill. So she has 4 cards that will not be played this turn. Once Tammy has looked at her hand, assessed which of the 3 to 4 cards they will attempt to play, they'll play on. The fact she only plays 3 says to me that she only had 3 foundations. Why she kept a 3 foundation hand, that is a completely separate time. This is just part of the constraints we have in here. If my opponent played 3 foundations as a 7-hander and I had 8 cards in hand, I would be probably building 4 or 5. But, experienced player versus new player learning. So Tammy builds 3, not the greatest position to be in, but it does happen. That means that Tammy now has 5 cards in hand that are not great. Tammy probably should have reviewed. But that means that Tammy does not have a mental load of 11 during her first turn. She gets rid of the 3, goes down to 8, looks at her hand, goes, are these grey? Yes, they are. Goes down to 4 or 5. Well within the limit. Then you go, okay, cool. This entire hypothetical is treating every card as though they are attacks. And the fact we just cut over the attack part here. So Bill plays an attack, then 3 foundations. Let's put this in the right order, Bill. Tammy plays 1 block. So we're not even taking into account enhances here. We're not even taking into account enhances responses that went down between these 3 foundations. That would be more mentally taxing than the playing of the cards. Once my opponent moves to playing foundations, I get to start planning my turn. My mental load starts to reset because unless I've got Shigaraki Free, Vega, Blue Flame Torment, any of these little cards that let you interact with your opponent's checks on build, then it doesn't matter. I don't have to commit my short-term memory to what they're playing at that moment in time. And because as most players will attest when they were new, they primarily ignored their opponent's boards while they were learning the game, which is not a bad thing to do. So you go through it, then you cut back to Tammy's turn. Tammy starts the turn with 7 cards. He's 9 on the battlefield. Now, this is again just immediately addressing that every single card you've got out in the stage is going to be impactful. It is not. This is just a love letter to simple interactions, complex gameplay. I have said this since I started the game. This game is very easy to learn, very hard to master. And what this sounds like to me is demos are going wrong because demo kits and clash decks are too complicated. And it's pushing new players away because they should be. I mean, looking at the design of the Eren Yeager demo decks, looking at the nondescript public domain demo decks, those are perfect example of demo decks. We should not be over exposing new players to all these archetypes. The game gets more complex from there, each player expanding the number of attacks and foundations. They play each turn. From that point forward, the interplay between each of these card types is what makes Universes fun to play. Yep, but the mental load for inexperienced player grows exponentially very quickly. A high starting mental load outside of the bounds of a human shot. So maybe that doubles on the second turn for play. Second turn for players is very high mental load for a threshold in the TCG space. Now, that to me is very, very one. I thought we were a CCG, not a TTG. I know they're kind of interchangeable. This has always been advertised as a CCG, and to put this in a way, looking at Yu-Gi-Oh, looking at Magic, looking at Vice Sparks, looking at Keyforge, their mental output is so much more. We start out fast, yes. But, I mean, you have so much more to consider in other TCGs. It's just different. I mean, looking at Yu-Gi-Oh! As it is now, with card text that you need a microscope to read, exaggeration, but then you've also got normal summoning, special summoning, tribute summoning, synchro summoning, XYZ, XL summoning, you've got pendulum play, you've got probably all these other stuff that you've overlays, which is XYZ. You've got essentially turn 1 kill programs, and we got an article here saying it's very hard for you to be able to remember everything that's going on when you're 11. When in other games you're dying before you've even got a chance to do anything, and that is seen as fine. Just you see, the mental load is so much. The mental load is so much deeper than what Bill has put here, because when you see your opponent, you have to think about their deck, think about their character. Once you ascertain what their symbol is, looking at the symbol identity, thinking about what the threats are going to be on that symbol. So when you're holding blocks, there's nothing on here that's talking about Tammy draws 7 cards, 3 of which are attacks, 4 which are foundations, but 3 of those foundations are all low blocks. So Tammy knows that they need to at least hold 2 of their attacks back if they can't kill their opponent this turn, because they could take damage in the backswing. But then again, depends on your character. There is so much more intricacy for the short-term memory than what's going on here, because you're having to recall everything, especially when you get to game 2, game 3, and look at games like MTG with Commander. If you're telling me that a person go back and forth, if my opponent's hand comes into account, if I start on 7, my opponent starts on 7, and then the 6 other people at this Commander table start on 7, my mental load is what? 8 times 7 is 56? My mental load is 56 turn 1. And that's a casual format. A high mental load is a risk of any game, as it represents an offboarding point for players who hit the wall. Feeling bad about not knowing how to manage all the information coming at them and choose to pursue other ways to spend the time instead of UK versus. We saw this over the past years as we attempted to build out new demo experiences for the game. New player feedback consistently indicated UVS was very hard to learn. The number shows us the dark impact of that truth. Our growth rate amongst new players need a lot of work. New players washed out very quickly because of the mental load it was very high, or not being able to bring new players in, which is very bad. I mean, that's a very limited regional demo you've got there. Just gonna point that out, because you're talking 2 years of NA. Because we've not had demos out here outside of like the stores doing it themselves. And I mean, my area alone is kind of just dying. Mainland Europe is in trouble. That's not part of this article. But yes, overloading new players with information is a natural offsetting point. Yeah, I agree with that. Demo kits should not be overloading. Clash decks and demo kits should be new player friendly, that are designed to bring in players and get them to learn the game and get them interested in the game, and then it should be the stars that nurture them within their community. So, for example, in my area, well, I say my area, in the area that I travel to every so often to play, we are still bringing in new players. We don't have a store to play in, but we had 10 people show up to our last store championship. We've got a brand new player called Brendan who is learning the game quickly. Some of the other players' partners were taking part in their first events. And they had a lot of fun because we made it fun for them. Exposing is not about exposing new players to information, it's about how they are exposed. If new players are using the complexity of the game as an excuse to jump off the game because they're not winning, then they weren't going to stick around for long anyway. I've said this multiple times. When I started playing this game, I started on Minato 1. And I went in that with the intention of, I'm going to play my best, but I'm going to lose. I know I'm going to lose a lot, because that is how I will learn. I will learn cards, I will learn interactions, I will learn how to play this game through losses. And not everybody wants to learn away. Some people want to jump in and be the best person in this game, in their area, right away. But it's saying that that we need to make this game simpler so new players stick around is not the right answer. We need to be addressing locals play and say, not making it super competitive for every single aspect. At this moment in time, every month there is a local qualifier or a star championship, which is a highly competitive event because there's world points on the line. And when it isn't that, a lot of places are having to practice for that. So locals play gets a lot less casual, which means new players are deterred from going to locals because it is a lot more aggressive, a lot more competitive. And if you just want to play the game and have fun, that becomes a lot harder when everyone you're playing against is playing like it's a regionals. And this has happened in other games. I've done this in other games. I've gone to my locals and I've played the best deck every single time in games like Keyforge, in games like Magic, because I wanted to test for events. I wanted to win the game. And do you know what happened? Those locals died. My events stopped happening because people weren't showing up because they didn't want the same person to win every single time. New players didn't want to play the game. Not because of how complex it was, because they could not physically win and the same person was winning every single time. So, you want to bring new players in, you need to increase the casual level of events. You need, and regionals not being invite anymore, great move. Because when they get to that level, it's going to be great. But no new player should be going into regionals and going, okay, I've been playing this game for a week. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to walk away first. The only person that gets to do that is Addy and Uyung from Oceanic, who played the game for 2 weeks and did it. Hello, Dash Cable. We're just going over the article here and talk about new players. You are a new player yourself, as I remember. And I'm not a big fan of the way this article has been worded, saying that players are getting overloaded in the first few turns and that the game's too complex. And the fact that it's worded is a very bad thing. Last part of the article. Our conclusion from examination of Universe's game engine was clear. We weren't succeeding at onboarding new players, and a big part of that was the complexity from mental load. Solving that for new players, however, poses a secondary risk. If we streamline the game to appeal to new players and go too far, we may oversimplify the game, and in that way it feels very unfun to Universe's fans who have been playing the game over years. That's tricky balance. So, in the next article, Bill will be going over that. So, next Thursday, hopefully we'll get a brand new article that we'll be able to read and find out how they plan to bridge that gap. But yeah, this kind of hit on the head. Streamlining the entire game to accommodate new players is something that a new game should be doing. That is something that these were for in 2006. The original demo decks. And from what I hear, so I'm going to open one. Here we go. Luckily, I managed to get one. So I got an original sealed demo deck from UVS, and they are just basic cards that have one or two abilities. Some say reversal, which is a bit of an issue. But what you need is to... It's like any skill. Dash Cable, as a new player, I don't think it's the cards or the mental load that's bound to entry to commit. Wait. Yeah, that's just it. One of the things that I remember you saying from previous streams is that you understand how the game works now. You don't, but you're struggling with the timings, and that is just part of episodic and somatic memory. And this is one of the things that people have said for years throughout the game. It is when I was doing in 2022. When I topped provisional with Dabby 1, when I topped nationals with Dabby 1, when I brought Dabby 1 to Worlds, and in day 1 I won 4 of my games, the message was always the exact same. It's about your reps. Sam Tate was able to, and others were able to go, he's been playing this Dabby 1 deck for about 300, 400 games. And that is, you need to immerse yourself in the game. And yes, this is a hobby. Not everyone is going to just spend all their time playing, making content, involving themselves in the game. It's something that people do to relax, and that is down to stores and communities to make sure players are feeling comforted. But to blame this on mental load feels like a cop-out. This game is very, very simple at its core. You draw cards, you build foundations, you play foundations. You then use attacks and actions, and use attacks to get your opponent's life down to 0. You don't need to bring assets and actions into it when teaching. You don't need to bring EX. You don't need to bring powerful. You just need a very simple demo deck that goes, this is the back and forth, this is the back and forth, and then you slowly introduce EX, powerful. You've got, these are the keyword abilities that will be coming out. It's something that we are literally working on here at UK Versus. I am literally right now working on a learn to play series with Richard, where rather than just dumping a gameplay video down and going, this is how you learn to play, like what we had with the UVS demo deck and other content creators, this will be short videos that address different aspects of the game. What is UVS? What is a turn? What is an attack? What is keywords? What are keyword abilities? What is stun? What does stun do when you use it? And how should I be using stun? What is breaker? What is EX? Rather than just dumping a demo deck down, dumping all this stuff down, you literally go, this is the basics of the game, and you go back and forth from it, and you let locals know, you let people know that they're learning to play, they want to have fun, they need to walk away from the event. And the introduction to the game should be simplified. And decks like Mirio and Overhaul were a terrible example of how to bring people in, as they know, because the cards there were just too good. The Toga and Ochako ones were they're still very powerful. They've still got some very powerful cards in there, but were a bit more simplified. But again, the mechanics were too complicated. You had a starting character who immediately had their ability around momentum. That's not what you want. You don't want to immediately be having your opponent thinking about their discard. You talk about mental overload. You literally created a deck for new players from Toga that basically goes, this needs to be your first attack. If it deals damage, you can pick up momentum. Also, when you play this attack, that you need that. No worries, Matt. Let's wind it back so I can do it. So I'm a brand new player. I'm playing Toga 3. I pick up my hand going second, and I go, okay, cool. My opponent has 3 foundations. I have 3 foundations. I'm going to launch my attack. But wait! Which attack should I launch first? Because my ability only lets me on my first attack. And also, I have to remember when I play this attack to get my opponent to commit a foundation. And on top of that, I have to look at my cards to see which one would be the best attack. Then taking into account my opponent's 3 foundations to see if they have anything that interacts with the response from Toga. And also, do I have any attacks in my discard to put in for momentum? You have literally created a character that mentally overloads a new player before they've launched their first attack, because they've got 7 things to think about what their first attack should be played and whether it does anything. The new demo decks, great. Looking at the Attack on Titan, looking at the nondescript Hercules and Monkey King ones, so simple, so great. Great way to introduce players to the game. Clash decks, however, have always been a bit too overcomplicated. Endeavor was a very good starter deck, but again, you're talking having to having to have players immediately consider life as a resource, and that is a very complex thing for new players to get hold of. The biggest thing you'll see with new players is they're very block happy. That when they don't consider their health a resource. When you come across more experienced players, some of them will sit there with 3 cards in hand and go, if it isn't going to kill me, I don't need to block it. Simple as. Because they know they can get the crack back on the next turn. Newer players are a lot more block happy, without considering if that block is actually beneficial to them. It is a pendulum of momentum, this game, and it's about controlling. It is the reason I love this game so much. One of the many reasons is reactive play is not a bad thing in this game, and I absolutely love that. In most card games, like Magic, like like Yu-Gi-Oh, Keyforge, you have to be proactive. In other games, if you are the reactive player, if all you're doing is sitting there and reacting to your opponent outside of blue in Magic, you're kind of not winning this game. Your opponent is leading how this game is going to be played. In this game, if you're playing reactively, if you're playing control decks are insane. I have heard mass complaints about a Jin deck that's going around that just sits there building one until you go into Deadlock and kills you, and it just uses Genkai's Guidance, Decoy Duplicate, Cape to just keep getting rid of your attacks. But exactly, Daniel. Most people in most games do not consider health a resource. It's one of the things that I needed to learn to do in Magic, is learn health as a resource. I never did, and I scrubbed out in a lot of events. This game, it kind of requires you to learn that not blocking is sometimes just as good as blocking. And these are things that are learned through experience. Saying that you have to simplify the game to bring in new players is not how you keep those players. If the game is too simple, once players get to a certain level of skill, if the games are too easy, if the gameplay is too simplified, we end up with Younger Toguro and Ojiro 2 metas, where it's just a case of, did I draw hot? Cool, you die. That is not how. That is Yu-Gi-Oh level of games where you just sit there going, if I survive, I get to take another turn, but if I don't, then I guess I don't get to play the game. The worst games I've ever had have been where my deck has just gone, you don't get to draw attacks, or I've just not been able to play the game. I just sit there watching my opponent play the game, and I'm sat there going, I would also like to play this game. And that is not a criticism of my opponents. My opponents played their decks really well. The biggest losses to me have not been where my opponent outplays me. I think those are some of my best losses. My worst losses is where my deck just turns around and goes, nope, you don't get to play the game. But I'm digressing from that. Ben, yeah, you're totally entitled to your opinion. I think the message in this article is close to the point. It just feels like it's a justification for something else. It feels like they want to simplify the game and they needed a reason why. So this is reverse engineered. So looking at Godzilla, that is not a simplified version of this game. This is all about Attack on Titan. They see they at least see a lack of new players. Yeah, but as much as I'd like to think that includes us in the UK dash, until I see dedicated demos at regionals, at cons, that I'm gonna hold my breath because we had the regional, we had 44 people. We didn't have a demo table. We had other events going on. We had other people there. It'd been cool to have a demo table. And it is something that me and Richard could do if one of us doesn't top, because we now have a UK versus stuff, and it's a really cool idea. Again, you've got cons and conventions that could be bringing in new players. I was talking about this with my partner yesterday, where we are partnered with Crunchyroll, and Crunchyroll goes to every major Comic-Con pretty much in the world. So just having a little demo station set up next to them with these really simplistic cards that take 5 to 10 minutes to play a game could bring in a lot more new players. The thing is, you need to maintain those players. You need to have a space for them to come in there. You need stores running new player friendly events where they're not just going to be going in and then the number 2 regional player in Europe is going to show up with Younger Toguro and beat up everyone in his area. You're not going to have world contending players coming in and completely dominating them. I only played Younger Toguro at my locals once because my friend Six was talking about going to regionals and I wanted to show him what was going to be coming across. Generally, when I go to my locals, I play something fun because I want to have fun. I want my locals to have fun, and I want them to still be involved in the game. My locals were becoming disheartened because it wasn't MHA only anymore. I went down there, showed them the new cards, showed them what these new cards could do, introduced them to them slowly, and talked about them with them. And now, Yu Hakusho, Critical Role, cards are now being seen in the locals, and Card Goblin has benefited most from that because they went and bought the singles. Matt plays Dumdex locals. Steve Claxo was playing Gentle at his Star Championship. Gary and Richard have been playing Genkai. They've played Jin. I mean, Richard regularly plays one checks. Locals are supposed to be that, for local people to have fun and to be for a sense of community. Local qualifiers and Star Championships are great, don't get me wrong, but they should not be the only events that are being supported. Our community is amazing. When there is a new player, when a new player asks questions, the amount of love and support that new player gets is insane. When I was a new player, I had people ship me cards, answer all my questions, engage with games with me, like that I'm playing slower, and that experience to me is what I pass on to new players. If I play against new players even if it's new players I haven't played against before, I allow takebacks. I allow them to get into the game because, as this article says, there is so much going on with this game and there are so many niche interactions that players need time to process them. But what we don't do is dumb down the game. What we do is we give new players tools and abilities to become immersed in this game that has access to everyone. We have the videos like what me and Richard are working on at the minute, which are just 1 minute videos explaining what Breaker is, what EX is, and how you use that, and the timings of that. You have more laid back events. Because what they're on about here, I'm sure, going off the way this was described, we should not be drawing. No one should be driving stick. This to me reads like someone who drives an automatic. Oh, 100%, Ben. I got into this game by accident. I played primarily webcam for like the first 2 years. But this to me goes, why would I drive a manual car when I can drive an automatic and let the car do everything for me? Or even better, why drive a car when I can go by train and have everything done for me? Why should I learn when I start? Okay, so when you start a job, tasks take you a long time because you're learning them, and they don't immediately give you incredibly hard tasks. Well, they don't if they're a good employer. They start you off on entry level stuff, and you become exposed. You get used to it, and then when you can get used to it, and you can do that at a relatively good speed, and you're kind of feeling confident about it, you then get the next level of it, and the next level. Similar to games, you have got games like Fortnite and Dark Souls that just chuck you in the deep end and go, here's some of the best players in the world, here's some of the best bosses, have fun and go for it. But some people love doing that, and that is a difficulty level that you can put onto this game for yourself. You can just grab a deck and do it. But if you want to progress through leveling, that is something this game offers as well. You get a basic deck. I would not recommend Clash decks. I would recommend the community created ones, which are very, very simple. The Bakugo Deku ones are fairly good examples of what these should be. But you should not be coming into a game and expecting you know everything. You should not be going into... And also, you should not be doing anything brand new and expecting that you know everything about this game, that you should immediately click. Ben saying, the reality is if you jump into any card game right now, no completely new player would be understanding of everything immediately. Yeah, that's just it. I came over from, I was just over... I started playing games when I was around 10, 11, so I've got 24 years of playing Keyforge, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic, WoW, Gwent, all the card games. And you get transferable skills. And as Ben says, that's what this reads of for me. This is players coming from other card games who expect the layers of Magic or the timing of Yu-Gi-Oh! They expect this game to play like other games, and it doesn't. And it is a huge culture shock. But I tell you what, it is the best culture shock. Once you get your head around how this game plays, I wish I'd found this game sooner. And if this game tries to pivot more to being like other games, to basically bring in other culture, bring in other games, you're not creating a main card game for them. You're creating a side card game for them. You're creating a watered down version of their main game that they can go and play Magic competitively, and then they can come in and think they can win all the UVS events because it is a more simple interactive game. I've not played One Piece, Matt. I've not played One Piece. I've played a little bit of Pokemon with Flynn. It's okay. But yeah, I've played majority of card games, but that's just it. This game plays so differently, and as someone put in when we were going through it in the chat, it is a reactive based card game. There are not many games where you get to pretty much do almost as much as your opponent in their turn. And during my HLC interview during Florida, I was saying that we need reversal back. We need more interaction. Do you know how like with Younger to Go would not have been as much of an issue with reversal, or it could have been a bigger issue because he got to attack you during your turn. But putting your opponent on edge and having to have that extra consideration of going, okay, I'll attack here, but if they block it, they can come back at me with another attack, feels more like a fighting game. It feels more like the core of this game. It feels more like a game that has simple interactions and complex gameplay. That to me is what this game was designed on. It was designed to be a fighting game. And how many fighting games you know where your opponent stands there and lets you punch them in the face until you're done, and then they get to punch you back in the face while you do nothing until they're done. That is not interactive. This is based on a fighting. This entire game is based on fighting games. The concept of powerful and EX come from fighting games. And as I think someone mentioned it, it might be in someone else's stream, or it might be during the 1 year anniversary. Was it the new Street Fighter has 3 different modes? One of which is for new players, which is really, really cool. So it's like a more watered down aspect of the game, which is possibly something we need to do. Look at a more casual, friendly sort of thing. But the article here, to me, why are they trying to make a push for draft and simplify the game? Because draft, the mental tax, the mental load, I call it mental tax, but I'm going to go mental load because I can handle a good mental load. But the mental load of draft compared to standard is insane. If we're taking into account Bill's analogy here, you're not just trying to remember everything your opponent's played. You need to try and remember the entire set. You are more playing like a new player in draft than you are in standard, because you have to take into account everything. Oh, look, don't get me wrong, Dash, I'm a big fan of draft. Richard isn't. I think the overwhelming feedback from regionals was draft isn't something that people want. But the layers of this game, the timings of this game are so good. And that is something I absolutely love. Great example, going back to Jetburn before even before Worlds, I was considering playing Dabi 1 again. And I asked a simple question. If I play Blue Flame Torment, and then my opponent plays their second attack, if my opponent plays their second attack, I then flip Blue Flame Torment, discard momentum, they fail that check, and then they play their second attack of the turn again, can I use Struggling with Studies to pick up a card in my card pool, because that is the third attack of the turn, but only the second attack that sees play? And judges said no, and TO said no, and Lenoco said no, and I went, can we please take this to Tony? And it went to Tony, and Tony went, yes, you can, because these effects check attacks as they're coming in, similar to check boosts and attack and damage boosts and speed boosts that say your next attack. If you fail the check on that attack, those boosts go. So that is still an attack. So although it's the second attack played, it's the third attack of the turn. So you can use Struggling with Studies to pick up a card from your card pool. And that is the level. That is the level of intricacy that this game has, where I saw an interaction and everyone said I was wrong, and the head judge of the entire game went, yes, that is one that went down. So Matt, because the card was attempted to be played, it wasn't played. It still counts as an attack this turn, because the game state checks what this card is when you check it. So if you had things like Hellflame Spider that says all attacks for the rest of the turn get +1, when you play your next attack, regardless of if you fail it or pass it, that attack still has +1 speed. It's part of why I love Dabi 1 and Azure, because you can't cool student Azure from Dabi 1, because it comes in with the 3 damage before it's even checked. So you check, they go cool student, you go cool, it's a 7. It's like, no, it gets the damage when it enters. No, the damage is already there before it enters play. And that's the kind of level this game has that people forget. This game is so deep but it's very rarely that players will actually get to put their foot that deep into the game. Exactly, Matt. It's one of those great things, and that's part of why I love the game. If those kind of interactions left the game, yeah, Daniel, exactly. Third attack, not third attack played. That was my arguing with like everyone. If those kind of interactions left the game, it would be a huge loss. There are so many good interactions like that, niche little things that do not need to be simplified because they very rarely come up. The main thing that's happening is we're seeing cards like Battle or Release, which are so much more simplified. Does anyone remember Frigid Heatwave? And how good Frigid Heatwave was because it got damage and it drew a card and it maxed out like $20, and it essentially could occasionally get to 10 damage if you were lucky, and could draw a card if you were late in the game. And now we have Battle or Release, which is one cheaper on the check, much easier to draw, and consistent damage because it's minimal getting +1. That is so insane to me that you got cards like Frigid Heatwave, which were seen as staples on their symbols and were really good, but then you look at them compared to Battle or Release, and like, yeah, no, Battle or Release is better. Things like Falling Skies, which has no cost to become like a 7-9 throw. When you had things like Blast Turbo Rust that needed stuff in your discard. Oh yeah, niche rulings that things I absolutely love, but cards are becoming simpler, and because cards are becoming simpler, they're easier to abuse, and that is a big thing. It's something that I want to talk about as a podcast thing, and some people have been interested in jumping on that. Cards like One with Nature weren't played in the past, and they're banned in this game, in this version of the game. Cards like Mob Strike was decent cards, but they weren't staples that were literally keeping decks together. When One with Nature was banned last year, a lot of decks just disappeared. When Mob Strike was banned, Tim Keefe, when we had him on a couple of weeks ago, and we said, when's the deck profile coming out? He went, if Mob Strike gets banned, not doing deck profile. It just dies. It's like, if you want to make the game less mentally taxing, make it longer, not shorter. You're talking about games like here going, on turn 2, Bill has a mental load of 11. It's like, cool. That's because you printed cards that can kill him at that point. Games like Magic, games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Not Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! They can kill you turn. But game like Magic, you go, most of the time it's play a land, play a 1-drop, pass. That 1-drop is not killing you. You then go, play another land, if you're playing green, you go play a land, get another land drop, and you sit there for a good 3 or 4 turns before you do anything. And because you don't have the same level of permanence in this game than the Magic, it becomes a lot harder. Because in Magic, when you get to like turn 3 or 4, you've got your opponent can have a massive board out. In this game, you just have to rely on what your opponent draws. And that's why we have the phrase 6-hander problems. Because 7-handers consistently see more cards, 5-handers don't, and 6-handers kind of in between. That's another thing, Matt. The mistakes come through. But that is where the consistency comes through. Rather than just saying, people don't want to play after one demo because the game's too complicated. That is not the players we should be accommodating to. We should be looking at players, new players who got the demo, went to their locals, and then dropped the game. And I know it's a lot hard to find them from there. Yes, you do need more powerful decks. You do need decks that can do it. I understand, but I understand why those decks exist, Ben. But I'm trying to relate it to the article sort of thing. Going, oh, if your mental load is 11 at this point, why it's too mentally taxing? It's like, then why print cards that can kill you at that point? Why increase the mental load? If they try to limit us to like one foundation a turn, this game is just going to die. Could you imagine how powerful five-handers will be in that kind of situation? Where you got things like Byakugo, how powerful certain symbols would be under one foundation a turn. There'd be no point for hand sizes. But that, because like I said, each player plays 3 foundations a turn. It's about developing skills, and this is what this article is missing. It's talking about this as a mental load. It's not talking about it as a skill. You do not just walk into anything and immediately have mastered it. Some people may. Some people have to work very hard to master it, and that is the key. If we're designing this game around new players that walk in, immediately understand the game, and immediately start playing it, then the game doesn't need to be simplified, because their people have already got the relative transferable skills. If we're looking at getting younger players, anime players, collectors into this game, then it needs to be a slow transitional build rather than just dumping them in there. A clash deck or a starter deck needs to be just that. It needs to be a deck for starters. It needs to have very little cards that are appealing to us. It needs to have cards that bring in there. Chess is a huge one. It's about anticipation, practice. Chess is insane, and the people that can like preload moves blow my mind. I love chess. I used to play chess a lot when I was a kid. It was a way for my mum to keep me quiet, apparently. But that's just it. You learn with these kind of stuff. You learn so much more by losing than you do by winning. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, I spent I started playing this game in March. I started opening packs in March. I started playing in April. So I spent April and most of May just playing Minato 1. That's all I played. And I specifically did that because I wanted to play what was considered the worst character in the game. I saw that Minato gave damage when there was a card in the card pool, and I could commit him to get rid of speed. And those are simple, so simple for a new player to understand. It gets me used to the commit cost. It gets me used to damage pumps and understand the card pool, and it gets me used to what speed is, because new players will focus more on damage than they will on speed, and that is another thing. This is how you learn. I'm not talking about players that have got an experience in card games. I'm talking about brand new players that if they're told they die due to damage, that is what they will focus. They will not focus on their block ability, but will still attempt to block everything. At parts, we have maybe 10 other players since started. Not a single one stopped because of mental load. Yeah. What generally gets rid of players, from what I've heard, is poor decisions, poor organized play, and just wanting to try other stuff as well. I mean, players have multiple games. I did meet, when I was at regionals, I did meet a player who I might actually reach out to, who quit the game. But this is, as many people are insulting this article and saying that it's like disrespectful to us as older players that and stuff like that. Because again, I'm still relatively new. I understand the core of this article. Yeah, poor organized play, poor incentives, poor pricing, poor. Like, part of that is because again we're EU, and as good as we have it now compared to like 2022, it's still not as good as other places have it, and we don't have the same resources or abilities as other places. It's getting better. UVS are making headway in getting like international play up, but if you look at Oceanic regionals, there's no way they had a 14-player turnout for regionals because of mental load. You see, that is not the way to put it. If you want to get new players in, you make it progressive. You make it a level up system, and if that's releasing a video series like what me and Richard are working on, which is just very simple to the point mechanic videos, which I was meant to film today. I keep putting them off. That is a great way for people to learn. It's about communities making games enjoyable for everyone, including new players, and most people will. I'm not calling anyone out here. I know the majority of the people watching this and the people I interact with, if they see a new player, they will slow down their play. They will check. They'll check everything that's going on. If I'm sat across from a new player and I know they've got a response, I will go, any responses? And they might go, no. And I'm just like, are you sure? And they go, what do you mean? And it's like, if it's a Star Championship, I'm not going to tell them until after the game, because I still want to win. But if it's just locals, like, don't forget you can respond with this, don't forget you can do this. It is about us as new players passing on these interactions, and so these new players learn these interactions and commit them to memory, as the article says. But do you know how they're not going to learn about these interactions? If the game is simplified. Do you know how they're not going to learn about this? If they don't play. If they pick up a demo deck and that demo deck is supposed to be competitive, that is not a good sign for the game. Challenger should be the bare minimum. It should literally be, here's your demo deck, test it out. Once you're comfortable with it, go to... oh, Scott. So yeah, you've got your demo deck. You learn the games, very simple, basic mechanics. You got your clash decks, which are the next step up. They don't have actions, have access. Maybe they have an EX, maybe they have a breaker, and they have all the cards have the explaining text on them, and players can learn for that. And then when players are happy with that, they go to Challenger, which are meant to be more challenging. And that is a level up system. It is about measuring a player's comfort with the game, not their mental capacity with the game. Because this... Oh! I don't know how to word this. I'm just going to read chat while my brain processes. Yeah, Scott got... my players say, wow, you know my characters more than I do, and I try not to do it, but... do you know how new players won't learn while all existing players quit? Because, yeah, if we offload all the old players, there'll be no one to teach the new players. But yeah, Matt, that's not a bad way to do it. If you know your opponent's character, it is a great way to help out. I mean, I was at my locals on the 10th, on the 10th? No, 10th, on the 6th. And I just one of my opponents was playing Eraserhead 2. I went, you're playing a weapons package? They went, yeah. I went, you playing on Void? They went, yeah. I went, do you have Mob Strike? They went, nope. I went, here's some Mob Strikes. You're going to need them. That was it. That was me going, I know your deck, I know your character, you need these cards. So that was my interaction because they're a fairly good player. When I was playing against Brandon, who is relatively new, I did do some reminding. It's one of the things that when I play at regionals, when I play against people online, if I know that they're new, or if they tell me they're new, we talk about interactions. We talk about things that they could have in their deck. One of the Spanish players I was talking to is now playing Mr. Compress because we got talking about the interactions between Mr. Compress and Blue Flame Immolation in Deadlock, and they found that so intriguing. Do you know where you don't get that kind of interaction? In a simplified version of the game. You do not get a response machine gun in a simplified version of this game. That is such a niche interaction in a character that hardly anyone plays. Scott coming in with his two pence. The game isn't the problem. The marketing is the amount of card gamers that I've never heard of this game. Multiple different stands. MHA was supposed to bring in players. It did, but it wasn't good enough. So, from our side, yes. In NA, it did its job. They had their biggest ever nationals. They've consistently seen growth, and what they're trying to do now is get the growth without these massive IPs. And yeah, it gets passed around. It's really good interaction. But over here, Scott, we did see the same kind of explosive growth. It just wasn't nurtured. So the set was announced in 2019, 2020. It got delayed 2 years here. The game dropped in March for most of April, but officially dropped in May. And it blew up. I joined multiple Discords from France, from Germany. I saw people comment on it. I saw posts about it. I had friends in Manchester who got into the game. I had friends from all over. I had stars in Bristol were testing it. People in Wales were playing it. But then we were disallowed from events. We were allowed in one webcam provisional, which started at 7 o'clock at night, which means most people couldn't take part in it, and one hourly, which started on the same time, and that was it. After those events, which I took part in one of, and I think Apple took part in both, we were told international shipping would no longer be accommodated as part of the pricing. So, we didn't have access to events. Our release, if we wanted to take part in that, we needed to find a way to pay more to get those pricing to us, and we had to go through third parties, which some people did. They set up lock boxes, they set up with other people in the community, but it became very expensive very quickly, especially if you did well. My top 8 win in August cost me an extra £100 in customs and postage and stuff like that. But we didn't get the support, and UVS have apologized repeatedly, and even recently, I had apologies sent to me about the previous incidents. But it's something I said at the time. It's something I still say now. The game needs a second wind over here. The German players I used to play with no longer play the game. They still have the cards. They just don't buy anything new. The French players don't play the game as much anymore. The game kind of die out. The Spanish players are still playing. And seeing there's only 5 people here, they play adapted standard. And what I mean by adapted standard is because they don't have enough resources out there, Twisting Azure is banned in their standard, and set 1 is still allowed. And here's a fun thing: that if you want to have a little laugh, please don't say anything because Richard will shout at me. If you go to the official UVS community page, go down to their most recent post about Spain, you'll see that in the pictures there is someone playing Jester who has release and Cool Student out, which is hilarious to me because Jester with Cool Student is so cool and it can never be played outside of Retro, where in Retro you got other things to do it. But Spain are doing what I say we should be doing here. There are people. It's fine. Richard can yell at me as much as he wants, but it moves on to what was saying here. They're playing a casual format. Why? Because they don't want to lose their players. The way that the person on Discord explained it to me is the store looked at it and went, half of your collection is set 1. Why would I sit here and tell you can't play half of your collection? That doesn't seem fair. So at their events, they get to play with set 1 as well, because they want to keep it casual and they want to keep players playing. Now, at regionals, at high-level events, those players know they can't play that. But at their local scene, their star has said, this is fine because we want you to keep playing. We want you to keep getting better. And eventually, once they start having fun with it, and once they start getting invested into the game, they can start to restrict it. And as more and more cards come out, and as they get more, these people get more access to them, especially with stuff like Girl Power, which, by the way, Spanish players had no idea it was delayed. The store just hadn't told them, and with no official word from UVS, they had no idea. I woke up to a message this morning from one of them being like, "Have you guys got pre-releases on? Because we've not heard anything." I was like, "Yeah, they were delayed. UVS told stores." Kind of going to my point that I was making. That the official word is nice, but I argued that enough yesterday. But yeah, that's the kind of mentality we need with new players. If it's a store championship, if it's a local qualifier, sure, keep strict rules. But if a player wants to just play the game and they're new, let them play. We need to establish an emotional attachment to this game. Part of this game's whole thing is you get to play the characters you love, and you get to play them against other people who are playing characters they love, which is a great thing. And this nice 1 hour video I was going to do is now turned into 90 minutes. But MHA Core was great, and changing back to a multi-IP was a natural jumping off point for a lot of players, and I'm sure it did impact numbers greatly. But the cards themselves from UH, Critical Role, Trigun, Godzilla should be enough to keep people enthralled. We have a guy called Dean who was adamant he'd only be playing in MHA Spotlight events, and then I showed him Critical Role cards, and he's now got into Standard. The cards speak for themselves. These cards are so good, and the gameplay is so interesting, and the way that this game functions is so unique. It doesn't need to be changed. It doesn't need to go backwards. The game started out in a very simplistic place. It started off in very back and forth simplistic interactions back in 2006. It has grown, it has changed, it has expanded since then. And what this article reads to me is we need to go back. And that, again, these are decisions of new card games. This is not the decision of a card game approaching its 20th anniversary. And I know I'm shouting a lot about what's going on here, but the article's message is so on point, but it is on point in the worst possible way. And that is what annoys me. We need to bring in new players. Yes. We need to make sure those players stick around. Yes. We do not need to dumb down this game for new players. We do not. This game is so popular with people who are neurodivergent, and I want to say this as someone who's neurodivergent myself, but it feels kind of ableist, and I don't want to say that was intended that way. I don't want to say that this is like a discriminatory thing or like, but simplifying the game when the game is so popular with people who are neurodivergent is so weird to me. And maybe it's because of my neurodivergency. I can't see the mental attacks going, because to me, the logical flow of this game is so good. And I would ask a neurotypical about it, but I don't generally hang out with neurotypicals, if I'm honest. It might be something I need to do, is speak to one of my partner's friends or someone I know who likes games, who is neurotypical. But because you talk about mental load, you could be, Matt. You could be, but I don't want to insult anyone there who is neurotypical, but it's just so weird to hear about like mental loading and stuff like that. And the whole thing kind of reads of pandering. All we can do is handle 7 things, and that's the example I got when I was doing the school run with Flynn when I was skimming this, and the example that Bill puts here with Bill has an opening hand of 7 cards, 7 bits of data to consider. Okay. So Bill is already overloaded with 7. If I'm driving down the road and there are 7 cars in front of me, I shouldn't be driving. I'm mentally overloaded. I need to keep track of those 7 cards in front of me whilst tracking my own speed and my gear and my petrol amount and the time if I've got somewhere I need to be, as well as checking in on Flynn if he's in the back, maintaining the music to maintain Flynn, making sure that if I'm turning my indicators on, check it. You see what I mean? The comparison of saying 7 cards equals a loadout of 7, to me, while driving, equates to there are 7 cars in front of me. I need to know I need to remember every single one of 7 cards. I don't. I need to compartmentalize this information and filter it to what is the most relevant. Your short-term memory, which is a very outdated kind of term, your working memory filters through to what is the most important. And as a new player, yes, you will start out with going, all 7 of these cards have the same level of importance. But as you get better at the game, as you learn into the game, you'll go, I have 7 cards. I can forget about these ones for now and focus on these ones, be it 4, be it 3, because these are the only cards I can play at the moment. And simplifying the game will not change that aspect of the game. Simplifying the game does not change anything on here. There's not a single... Yes, my brain has finally worked it out. My brain has been working this out for 5 hours now. Simplifying the game and the abilities in the game changes nothing in this article. If I'm a 7-hand character, no matter what abilities those cards have in my hand, this is all the same. The only way to address this is to limit attacks, foundations, to limit what can be played. And that is a terrible move. Look at me, look at me. That is a terrible move. If you turn around to us and go, you can only play 1 foundation a turn, or you can only play 3 attacks a turn, then you are going to destroy this game. This game has had sets before that have attacked it and kind of killed and done damage to it, from what I've been told. But the game has survived from its core principles. But there is nothing in this example that talks about the complexity of this game. It talks about the start of this game and how the game is fundamentally played, which is simple. I have 7 cards in my hand. I need to check cards to play it. If you're saying that these examples are the limit of what we should expect of new players, then that is concerning as to what you're thinking with this game. If that makes sense. Yeah, if you want to just start printing blank foundations and turn this into a Magic-esque kind of game, that is not what we came here for. And that is why you put down here, oversimplifying the game. We won't succeed, but if we streamline the game to appeal to new players to go too far, we may oversimplify it, which feels unfun for Universe's fans, which have been playing for years. That is a tricky balance to strike as a designer. But on the literal website, it says these are simple interactions. It is a simple thing for players to learn, that you build foundations, you use those foundations to pass checks, and the checks are made by playing the cards. That is a simple concept. These interactions are very simple. It gets harder when you introduce enhances, responses, bit of cards that have form, cards that have static abilities, but none of those are mentioned in here. This is not calling out ability. My brain is literally just like pieced this together while I'm on stream, which is hilarious. The game is not calling out the abilities of cards. The game is not calling out how the game flows in the late game. The game is calling out how complex the game is at the start, which is the most simple part of the game. If you touch the start of this game, if you simplify the start of this game, I don't know how you can simplify the start of this game without oversimplifying it. And that is terrifying to me. If anyone in chat has a suggestion as to how Bill might approach this, Scott, when I teach players, I introduce one thing at a time. I treat all cards as blank and go through them as I introduce character abilities. Yeah, exactly, Scott. And that is the way that it should be done. You go, let's find a... Cool. This is Ectoplasm Clone. This attack, first of all, this attack checks for a 4. So when you play it, this attack has a difficulty of 4. So when you play it based on this number, and you add it for every other card in your card pool. Easy, simple. New players can understand that. If you check it for this amount. Simple. This attack is a high attack, which means it can only be blocked by highs or mids. And this is its speed. When you go to block, this will be your main factor as to how to block the attack. And this is the damage. If you are unable to block the attack, this is how much damage you're going to be taking. The rest of this does not matter to a new player until they've got established in the basics of the game. You need to learn and master the basics by doing them over and over again before jumping in. Yu-Gi-Oh got so complex so quickly, and they, to be fair to Yu-Gi-Oh, they did simplify it back down, but they made it made it its own format. You have speed dueling, you have games that resemble the original Duel Monsters gameplay, like when back with Yu-Gi and stuff like that. So that making it its own format is great, and stars and players are new player friendly. Not everyone is. Could you imagine if they get rid of blocking? Oh, Dabby One would reign supreme. But yeah, that's just it. Magic got to what, around 20 years before they changed rotation, before they changed even they got to like Magic 2019. I mean, when they introduced the new cards to and stuff like that. Yu-Gi-Oh is now what, celebrating its 25th anniversary. And this game is approaching its 20th anniversary. This is what a lot of new players forget. This game has its own culture, it has its own history that is not often gone into. And fair play to UVS. They're bringing retro back. Retro is coming back in a big way. But I don't think we need to simplify the game. We need to simplify the demos, which they've done. They have done it. The new demo decks look great, but they are talking about simplifying the game before stars have seen these demo decks. They're putting the cart before the horse. If the Attack on Titan demo decks had gone out to stars, if the Hercules Monkey King decks had gone out to stars, and we had Sean running demo games for players, if we had Gary running demo games for players and going, okay, these new demo decks are bringing players in, but these new demo decks are working, players are understanding it a bit more, but then they're not coming back into the game because of how complex it is. Then yeah, maybe look at the gameplay, or maybe look at how we can train players. Demo games with very simplified decks are a great way to go. Running demo games with Ochako 3, Toga 3, Eraserhead 2, these very complicated characters where timing matters and you've got so many decisions to make around these characters. Those are not starter decks. Those are intermediary decks. Challenge decks are more challenging. You've got the assets now. You've got the actions. The more all-encompassing parts of the game. But a demo deck, a starter deck, should be an introduction to the game that allows you to grow as a player. The complexity of these decks isn't... The complexity of the Clash decks has been an issue, which is why Mirio and Overhaul was so very overpowered. Ben saying he agrees with Zane. I think, yeah, that's just it. We're talking about simplifying the game before the demo decks have hit stars. And maybe this is just from... Because these demo decks did what, level up? So are they equating this off one event's level of data? There is a scripted tutorial. Learn to play basics, attacks, foundations. Learn to play video. Learn to play demo script. There we go. And this hasn't been updated since set 1. Oh, it has been updated since set 1. Okay. So this is what we got here. Can I make it so you guys can see everything? transform, edit transform. Oh, it's just off the side, that's right. Boop. I want to be on top. There we go. So, this is the script that's on this. We have a script, but these demo decks, like I said, are not scripted. If you want to give your opponent an easy win, if you want to give a new player a way to do it, then yeah, you have stacked decks. You have them in numerical order. You reset those decks into order, and you go, "This is how we play." And then you know as the teacher what they have in their hand, what they're going to be doing, so you're prepared for the questions. So if they draw their hand and they have 4 foundations in their hand, you know that 4th foundation is going to fail, so you can talk about failing checks. It becomes a more, although it's scripted, the natural learning becomes more interactive. So starting to play. So yeah, you can talk about the damage. I want to see if it covers turn 2 attack and blocks, turn 2 enhances. Yeah, so this kind of script is giving your opponent giving the person being demoed the illusion of choice is great. And you can talk about turn sequence, and you can even print out this bit and put it next to the person being demoed, so they know they have the starting phase, the ready step, the review step, the draw step, the combat phase, so they know about enhances and they can ask these questions and do it. We shouldn't be simplifying the game. We should be making the demo decks more simple, and we should not be talking about simplifying the game until we have enough data from demo decks, because the video for the video for the demo deck dropped when January. It was March, April, February, one of them. And I've not seen these demo decks in use. So if it's only been done by UVS, that's a very tight. You've not got enough data. You've got a very subjective data putter set there. I do think having a simplified turn structure on a card sized thing. Yeah, I get that, Zane. But Yu-Gi-Oh does it where you can only play one creature, but you can then play unlimited spells and traps. And that's the kind of thing. How far do you limit it? If you limit this game to 1 foundation a turn, the games become a lot slower. And then cards like New Training Method become a lot better. Oh, not what you meant. Okay. I'll cut around to explain to me what you meant by simplified turn structures on a card sized. Or do you mean the demo decks? We're making it more simplified for demo decks so people can learn. Oh yeah. Oh. Having the script printed. Yeah. Okay. Showing the turn order. Yeah. So rather than having like. I didn't transition over. I'm an idiot. There you go. So rather than having all this on here, having it in smaller, more compact doses. And like I literally said, that is something I proposed to Richard and we are working on. We are working on short 1-minute videos that talk about what is universes, what is a character, what is an attack, what is stun, what is breaker, what is a form, what every aspect of this game. We're going to try and get every aspect of the game into short, compact 1-minute videos that a person learning the game who understands the basics but wants to expand the knowledge doesn't have to sit there for a 20-minute video of gameplay trying to understand everything that's going on when they've only had a demo. They can come here and they can just be told, what is an attack? An attack is a form that you play that opens up the enhanced step. You and your opponent can then, just the basics. I need to write scripts from, so don't take that as gospel as to what I'm gonna say. But it is, something that a player can look for half a return. Something that a player can go. A player can walk. The videos we're going to do is something like a player can walk away from, and can then go on YouTube and like, I don't understand. My opponent was playing breaker attacks. I don't fully understand what breaker attacks are, because not everyone feels comfortable asking for help, and rather than asking for help, they'll keep making the same mistakes until they learn. So having the opponent be able to go to like our video series and be like, what is EX? What is powerful? What is a form? I don't understand what a form is, and have it just briefly and simplistically explained to them is a great way. Ben, content creator, Tam has got a learn to play video up. There are lots of learn to play videos up by the company themselves, by content creators. It's not something that me and Richard have done, primarily because I didn't like the way other content creators were doing them. In like the gameplay video is like where it stops. I mean, for the gameplay videos that we already do, let's see if I can get our latest video. It's like the gameplay videos that we already do. Of course it won't show. I already go through our videos, and yep. So for our gameplay videos that we already do, when the card are played, they come up at the bottom here. When an enhance is played, the enhance is highlighted and brought up to explain what the enhance is and what is going on. I don't do speed and damage, mainly because I already do so much. And then you can see it also shows from the relative area what from the relative stage where that card is coming from. So this is something I've been doing more and more. As the enhances get played, the enhance gets shown so that people watching and reading, watching on here, aren't just having to focus on what we're being said. It's being shown on screen, the back and forth and the intricacy of what's going on here. And even with responses, it shows up at the same time as the enhances. The attack names are always shown. The attack names are always shown so that people can go and look up the cards if they need to, as well as the characters always being in frame, because it's a great way. This is a great way to learn without having to be directly told, if you just want to sit there and learn through osmosis watching gameplay. But it does not tell you what these cards do, if that makes sense. So what Scott's talking about there in chat is the dubbers, who are amazing content creators in their own right, have a action tracker, and theirs is so much better than what I do there. They have an overlay that goes over the entire gameplay. It has proper health bars, and it has a tracked history of what's gone on during this turn. That is superior to what I do. What I'm just doing is using tracked vectors to pull up cards. It's inspired by, it's not theft. I mean, I don't do the speed and the damage like you guys do. I don't go into anywhere near as much detail as the dubbers do. But then again, I also release videos more than once every 6 months. Isn't that right, Scott? But no shade on the dubbers. I mean, just did it for hours. Let's go. I can. Let's go get these guys up. I put dubbers in again. Let's go with. It's probably going to be on the UFS Scotland. There we go. The dubbers. Videos. Deck ideas. Interviews. Let's get this one up. Not ideal with who's on there. But yeah, so this is what the doubles have. They have the deck lists along here, and then if we go into the actual gameplay, you can see they have the cards that are being displayed here, and they have an action tracker that shows everything being done as it's done, and then we see that we have the health totals on the top as well as momentum and games won. This is a lot smoother and a lot better than what I'm kind of doing, but again, I don't know. I would love to know if this is hand done, like if these enhancers come in, and you also got the color coordinated. So the blue enhancers are done by Fourth Kind here, the red enhancers are done by Endeavor. But if this like action tracker is just a program that's being done, or if it's something you're feeding into, but it's editing is an absolute pain, Scott. I think every 10 for the way I do it, every 10 minutes takes me an hour. Yeah. So basically, if I was doing it that way, I'm trying to decrease the process even further. I'm gonna try and do a hybrid of what we did in the past, where I just show the cards on screen as well as the enhancers, because I've currently got the cards like cut off at half. But this is just recording gameplay and uploading it isn't as good. It's about making content that's new player friendly, similar to what the Dobbers are doing, similar to what we've started doing now because we were inspired by it, where you're highlighting what's going on in the game. And we're doing that as a community. And these demo decks need to be doing a similar thing. They need to be... I'll put this back where people can actually see it now. Yeah, these demo decks need to be streamlined. They need to be simplistic, very back and forth, highlighting this part of the game. They need to be They need to be showing the simple principles of the game and allowing the complex interactions to be highlighted through their growth. That is the main part of what I wanted to hear. I'm going to wrap it up in a minute because I've got to get ready to get Flynn. But this entire game, this is on the opening. If you go to UVS and go to like the universes bit, this is what you get greeted with. And the simple principles, complex interactions is a great way to describe this game. I put it down as this game is easy to learn but difficult to master, which is my perfect analogy for it. Having the introduction to the game being simplistic and basic and just showing, oh, it's a fun game with attacking and blocking is great. Because, you know, you want them to be basically going, here's an attack, here's a block, cool. But you also want to be showing, and then you want them to be able to learn and grow with their decks, with their gameplay. It's an introduction thing. Nobody walked into this game knowing, mastering it. I've just shown through the Blue Flame Torment example that a lot of people don't know. There's definitely there's a massive amount of memes going on, especially by the fact that he called it a mental load. Even while I was selling the stream, I was literally talking to my partner, going, "I need to talk about this mental load situation and go through it." And as he's leaving the room, he just goes, "Yeah, you take that mental load, you good boy." It's like, yeah, that's exactly the joke. God damn it, Bill! You could have called it mentally taxing. You could have called it. You literally at one point, I think you put mental overload in here. You could have literally put it in there. You could have called it being mentally tapped out, and everyone has still known what you're on about. Mental load is such a bad turn of phrase, but we're not hit. The memes are always going to come out. There's going to be people like myself. There's going to be people like Thomas and Scott and other people that drop these memes because it's a way of processing ways of getting out there. There's going to be people like Gary who have put up polls asking if Bill Stark is doing a good job. There have been recent people who have left the company, and we don't know if that's to do with Bill. There's lots of rumors floating around. I don't know Bill. I want to hope Bill's doing his best, and I hope that if he is damaging the game, that UVS and the management team will pull him into line. But from reading this article, I am not reading that enhances and responses are the problem. I'm not reading momentum's the problem. I'm reading that the gameplay is mentally overloading. I'm reading the game is mentally overloading. We're doing so much in the early game that it's overcomplicated, but it's not. It is a game about momentum. It's about building up speed and how you play. And this is one of the best and most interactive games that we have. And I love this game so much. I just want to play this game. It's how I've been ending a lot of my streams recently. Just let me play the game. And if this game is going to change on a fundamental level, it needs to be perfect. And yes, we have more articles coming from Bill. He said this is a series, so I think this is going to be very interesting to see where the series goes. But going off this first article, I think I think I've caught up with other people now where they're not talking about he's not talking about enhances. He's not talking about responses. No one here has even mentioned checking or the order in which you play cards. It's literally saying 7 cards is too many. And to me, that just seems bad. It feels like it's a prelude to them making a big change to the fundamental starts of the game. And oh yeah, when they announced, I thought Deflect was going to be reversal. I know you are Zane. You've been on the edge for a while. I know a lot of the old heads. I know Grant Padley. I was talking with him, and he was saying that he's cutting back on the game until Nats, even if he might not even take Nats seriously. We saw Phil Birch in the HLC playing Mina 2 and just literally throwing games. That was awe-inspiring. Phil Birch, if you ever actually watch this video, I love you for your HLC play of going up against Kanos and just being like, yeah, you shuffled, you sideboarded, you're done. He's got this 150k deck. You go, yeah. He goes, cool, I'll price for peace turn 1. I lose. And then he had to go and de-sideboard everything. That was just so cool to see like that high level of play. Someone just not taking it all seriously. That is just who he is. That is, and that's part of what this game is so good about. People, even at the world's level, can you think of any other game that where the top 32 players of the worlds, where 8 of us are sat talking about our decks on the day before, and we're all openly talking about what we're going to be playing and giving each other advice and giving each other tips and talking about improvements we could be making to each other's decks. We had like David Toombs and Yu Young playing against each other and playing the decks they were going to play on the Saturday so they could test them out and see how it's going to. There is no, unless you were part of the same team in like Magic, there is no way you sat across from someone you know you might end up playing against the next day in Worlds and give them information about everything that's in your deck. It doesn't happen. And that is one of the things I love about this. That even at its highest level, the community is still so good. The community is still so happy. Even at like webcam regionals, when I was playing against David Toombs, he missed a trigger, and I was like, "Take it. If this was if we were sat across from each other, you wouldn't have missed that game. The game state hasn't changed since then. You take your trigger, because that is what this game is. We pride ourselves on being the best community in gaming, and we often do show that through, and it's one of the things I love about this game, and that alone should be enough to bring people in. If UVS needs to work with us, rather than saying the game needs to change, and saying, "Oh, the selective few players we've spoken to through one event this year, I've gone through it." I mean, if you've got the data, show us the data. But I can guarantee you haven't got any demo data from Europe. I'm sure Zane can tell me if Guile was running demo games at regionals in. Zane wasn't there, but given the situation they had, in Worlds versus Bailey, he accidentally drew an additional card. The solution I got was to look at his hand, remove a card of my choice. The additional card he drew was still set aside, so I just removed that one. Yeah, there you go. That's just it. You could have picked the best card in his hand and got rid of it, but a lot of players in this game just want to lose when their opponent's playing at the best. Scott, best interaction I've had was in top 16 with an Oceanic player in the Wish. Best game I've played in such. Yeah. There's Caleb from Oceania who I play with. I used to play with a lot. Don't play with him as much. Really nice guy. I've played with Zane a few times. I played with Uyong and Addy. Again, no one knows much. They unfortunately just not around when I'm around at the minute. I started playing with the Spanish guys a lot, and the community is amazing. My best interaction with Zane, of course, is going to be HLC 2022 when I'm playing Dabby, he's playing Odro 2, and turn 2, I just go attack, 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 foundation, no cards in hand, come at me, bro. And Zane's like, I'm gonna kill you. I've got to kill you. I'm on like 2 health. You need to die, and unfortunately, just didn't get the Texas Smash to kill me. And that's just the kind of like fun things you can have with this game. I cannot say how much I love this community. I love this game. I wish I'd been playing since 2006. I would have as much as I love the friends I made for the other games. I really wish I could play this game. It is so good. I'm gonna call it here because I'm gonna get ready for Flynn. Great to see you, Zane. I hope you're having a great Saturday. Before I goes in, did you guys get? Have you guys got Girl Power pre-release? And see, I'll shoot off. I'll let Zane answer that in the comments while I'm sign off. Have I got anyone I can raid over? I doubt it. Ooh, I've opened up one of these. Delayed. Okay. Delayed another week, yeah. You might get your kits in tomorrow. That's really cool. Yeah, as I said before, Spanish players had no idea what was going on. It's a real shame. Spanish players had no idea that the regionals had been rearranged because the article dropped at midnight for them. But I'm going to drop out here, guys. Great to see you, Han. Great to see that these videos are bringing people in and they're getting interactive. If people, I know you guys are probably out working doing all that, but if you guys do want the ability to jump in and chat with me, do let me know. I can move this over to a public channel on Discord, and we can all have a proper kind of roundtable chat. But I'm gonna send you over to someone playing Magic because I think that's quite on point, and I'm going to dive out and go get a drink before I go get Flynn. Thanks for being here, and goodbye.